They didn't even say anything, but you felt it. The moment crawled under your skin, and you reacted. That was your first mistake, and it cost you everything. People think weakness is a physical display, a lack of confidence, a loss of words. But weakness is invisible. It begins the second you allow someone to reach inside your mind and touch a nerve, that flicker in your eyes, that tension in your jaw, that sharp inhale. You didn't speak, but you said everything. Emotion is the original betrayal, not to others, but to yourself. I've watched entire rooms shift because one man couldn't control his reaction. A slight insult, a dismissal, a moment of being overlooked, and suddenly he's defending, over-explaining, exploding. He thinks he's standing up for himself, but what he's really doing is bleeding power. You never defend yourself from a place of control, only from a place of exposure. The world doesn't care if your reaction is justified. It cares that you had one, because that's the moment they know you care. You're reachable. You have a center, and they've just found it. You don't lose power when you're silent. You lose it when you respond. This is the great illusion. People think reaction is strength, that to express pain, outrage, offense is a form of honesty. But in power, honesty is irrelevant. What matters is leverage, and emotion gives it away for free. He insulted you? So what? She ignored you? Let it sit. They mocked you in front of others? Let the silence devour them. Because the moment you lash out, you confirm something very dangerous, that they matter, that their opinion controls your state, that their presence shifts your reality. And once they know that, they can push you anytime they like. You've handed them the switchboard to your inner world. Calm people aren't peaceful. They're strategic. They don't react because they know every reaction is a confession, a leak, a crack in the armor. And the most dangerous man in any room is the one you cannot read. That's the Machiavellian rule of perception. Control the signals you emit, and you control the thoughts others create about you. Let them guess what you think. Let them wonder if you even noticed. Because when you deny them your emotion, you deny them their influence. And that's when the balance shifts. People become anxious around the emotionally controlled. They start chasing your reaction, trying harder, speaking more. They unravel themselves while you remain still. This isn't about coldness. It's about command. Control over self precedes control over others. You want presence? Detach. You want respect? Silence. Because when everyone is shouting and you remain unfazed, you terrify them. The key isn't to pretend you don't feel. It's to ensure they never see it. Here are your weapons. Delay your first response. Always wait. Let emotion pass like a storm. The second you feel it, freeze. Let stillness become your instinct. Most mistakes happen in the first 5 seconds of reaction. Track your triggers. Know exactly what makes you flinch, bristle, or defend. Then practice blank observation. Flat, internal, empty. You're not ignoring. You're absorbing without leaking. In conversation, never be the first to react. Let the silence stretch. Let the room feel your pause. Power often lies in who can remain unmoved the longest. Because here's the truth. The less you show, the more they project. And projection is a weapon. Let them guess wrong. Machiavelli warned, the man who angers you controls you. That is not metaphor. That is a war strategy. Because if they can pull your strings, They don't need to destroy you. You'll do it yourself. And the world will just watch. They don't need to understand you. They need to feel. You can't be touched. That's where most people go wrong. They want to explain, to be seen, to be heard. They believe that clarity will protect them. But in power, clarity is a trap. Here's what you never learned. The moment you try to be understood, you become readable. And the moment you're readable, you're programmable. People explain themselves for one reason: fear. They fear being misjudged. They fear being disliked. They fear being misunderstood because they don't yet understand power. You think someone insulted you? You rush to clarify. Someone blamed you. You scramble to defend. Someone questioned your character. You explain your story like a child begging for justice. You think you're clearing your name, but all you're doing is exposing your throat. You hand over the blueprint of your emotions every time you open your mouth to explain. And the moment they see where your boundaries are, they will test them. You told them your intention. Now they know how to twist it. You shared your past. Now they know what guilt you'll bend under. You gave them your truth. Now they own your narrative. And here's the twist. They don't even need to believe you. They just need to know that you want to be believed. Because that desperation is leverage. Every explanation is a confession. Even if it's true, it shows you care too much. It shows they have space in your mind. It shows they've moved you emotionally. That's enough. That's weakness. In the language of power, silence is dominance. Mystery is insulation. Ambiguity is a weapon. When you are unreadable, you are untouchable. When they don't know what you want, they can't deny it. When they don't know what hurts you, they can't strike it. When they don't know what drives you, they can't control it. So I stopped explaining a long time ago. You think I'm arrogant? Good. You think I'm cold? Fine. You think I'm hiding something? Maybe I am, but you'll never know what. And that is the point. I let people project their own stories onto me. Let them misunderstand. Let them wonder. Confusion is more powerful than clarity because the unknown creates fear, and fear creates distance, and distance protects your throne. A man once tried to corner me in public. Words, accusations, distortions. He wanted a reaction. I gave him silence. He kept spiraling. I remained still. The room watched him unravel. They didn't understand me, but they respected me because I never gave him what he came for. That's when I realized respect is built in silence, not in justification. You want to protect your reputation? Stop defending it. You want to control your narrative? Say less. You want to keep power? Make them guess. Machiavelli warned, the more you reveal, the more you are ruled. Every word is a thread, and once they have enough threads, they can unravel you piece by piece. So here's what you do. First, practice strategic ambiguity. Let your words be few. Let your meaning stay behind your eyes. Speak in tones, not in confessions. Second, resist the urge to clarify. They'll provoke you. Let them. Confuse them. Delay them. Make them fill in the blanks and watch them drown in their own assumptions. Third, speak in signals, not stories. Let your behavior hint. Let your posture whisper. Your silence should scream louder than their accusations. This isn't about being passive. It's about being calculated. It's about using silence as armor, confusion as defense, distance as control. Don't chase understanding, because once you do, you've already lost control of the room. They don't stab you with weapons. They stab you with reactions they rehearsed. It took me years to understand. People don't come for your mind. They aim for your emotions because that's where you're weakest, loudest, and easiest to predict. The mind can hide, it can analyze, retreat, deflect. But emotion? Emotion bursts out. It's noise. It's signal. It's a flare in the dark that says, "Here, this is where I can be controlled." That's the thesis. Every emotional reaction is a broadcast, and once they know the signal, they own the frequency. That's why manipulators never fight you logically. They don't debate you. They provoke you. A subtle insult, a delayed response, a flirt with someone else. They don't care what you say. They care what you feel. Because once you feel it, they know how to move you. Praise isn't always praise. Sometimes it's currency. Flattery isn't affection. It's a leash. They'll give you attention and then starve you of it. You chase the next hit like a drug addict. You crave their approval because they trained your nervous system to depend on it. Anger, that's their favorite. Because the moment you raise your voice, they lower their mask. They get to play the victim while you play the fool. They humiliate you publicly, not because they hate you, but because they want the world to see how easily you fall apart. And when you do, you confirm the image they designed. Love bombing, gaslighting, triangulation. These are not emotional mistakes. They are strategies, calculated behaviors to make you unpredictable while they remain calm. If you respond with rage, they control your punishment. If you respond with joy, they control your reward. If you respond at all, they control you. Emotional predictability is psychological slavery, because to be predictable is to be programmable. Here's what I've learned. When someone consistently triggers emotion in you, they're not reacting to you. They're studying you. If you've been gaslit, mocked, toyed with, don't just feel hurt. Feel informed, because they just revealed their playbook. And if you're smart, you'll write down every move. Tactic 1. Monitor the people who know how to get under your skin. Not the ones who irritate you once, but those who do it surgically. They are learning you like a system. Tactic 2. Reverse the frame. When provoked, do not raise your voice. Lower it. When insulted, do not defend. Observe. Coldness is not weakness. It is calculation. Tactic 3. Delay. Create a gap between stimulus and response. When your blood boils, say nothing. Let the emotion pass through like smoke. Never speak when you're on fire. The words will burn you, not them. The one who controls emotion wins the long game, because emotion screams, but power whispers. Machiavelli advised, if you must show pain, do so after the war is won, because the battlefield is not where you cry. It's where you conquer, and conquest requires stillness. Emotion is a storm, but your mind must remain the eye, silent, centered, and untouchable. They told you to speak your truth. They didn't tell you what it would cost. Emotion is paraded as strength. They say your pain is your power. They tell you vulnerability is courageous, that crying in front of your enemies shows confidence. But that's not strength. That's surrender, dressed in a velvet costume. The truth is colder. Emotion is a signal, and signals are hunted. Every time you show your inner world, the trembling voice, the misted eyes, the flash of rage, you give away your position. You mark yourself as visible, predictable, exploitable, a bleeding animal in a forest full of wolves. You don't look strong. You look available, open to judgment, open to attack. The myth of emotional strength is not just wrong. It's weaponized. Society taught you to bare your soul. Predators watched and learned when to strike. There's a reason manipulators crave your openness. Because they know what openness does. It softens your armor. They wait for your disclosures. Those vulnerable, trembling revelations. Not to support you, but to map your weak points. And they smile. Because once they know your emotions, they own your reactions. And the cruel irony? The more emotionally expressive you are, the more permission you give others to dismiss you. People don't listen to crying adults. They comfort them, then forget them. People don't fear those who yell. They label them unstable. They nod when you open up, but they record the moment in silence, storing it away for later use. Because emotional expression isn't dominance, it's data, and the person with less data wins. You think your breakdown makes you relatable, but it makes you forgettable. You think your anger makes you respected, but it makes you predictable. You think your tears show power, but they show surrender, and the world punishes surrender. You can tell who's powerless. They explain themselves emotionally. You can tell who's dangerous. They explain nothing. Strength isn't loud. It's unreadable, because real power lies in mystery, not in openness, not in catharsis, and certainly not in asking the world to hold your pain. So what do? You adapt. First, turn inward. Process your storms in silence. Let your breakdowns become blueprints, not broadcasts. The strongest people transform in private. They show up new, and no one sees the scars. Second, master the art of the controlled leak. If you must reveal, make it cold, minimal, and calculated. Never rant, never beg. If you show pain, make it look like strategy. Bleed in patterns. Use silence where others scream. That's where fear begins. And finally, never reveal for catharsis. That's how weak people confess to their executioners. Reveal only what bends perception, what distracts, misdirects, or manipulates. You don't reveal to release. You reveal to rule. Let people guess where you are emotionally. Let them wonder if you feel anything at all. Because when they can't read you, they can't touch you. And when they can't touch you, they fear you. There is no power in being understood. There is only power in being unreadable. You're not here to be relatable. You're here to be untouchable. The world does not respect emotional transparency. It documents it, weaponizes it, and throws it back in your face when you least expect it. So stop thinking you're being brave when you open up. You're being dissected. Stop thinking you're being bold when you cry out. You're being marked. If strength is what you want, then silence is your disguise, and distance is your weapon. Let your enemies see only what you want them to. Let your allies question your depth. Let the world starve for your emotional reality. Because once they're hungry for your inner world, they'll pay anything to feed on it. And when that day comes, you decide what to serve. Machiavelli warned, to be feared and respected, you must never appear to suffer. Because those who suffer publicly are devoured privately, and those who suffer in silence. They build kingdoms. They insulted me. I didn't blink. They pushed. I stayed still. They expected fire and were met with ice. That's when they lost power. Control begins where reaction ends. Machiavelli taught that not because it sounds wise, but because it breaks people. People don't provoke you for fun. They provoke you to own you. They want your reaction, because your reaction is a sign that they've entered your mind. So I stopped giving them that key. Here's the truth. Most people aren't after truth. They're after control through emotion. They insult you not to hurt, but to watch you prove you're hurt. They flirt not to connect, but to see if you'll chase. They threaten not to dominate, but to see if you'll submit. But when you don't react, the script collapses. Suddenly, they're the exposed one. They hear their words echo in a silence that won't respond. They see their efforts bounce off a mirror that doesn't crack. This is cold reversal. It's not passive. It's not fear. It's not repression. It's psychological aikido. You let their energy flow past you and use it against them. They throw chaos. You absorb it with calm. They expect a storm. You give them still water, and still water can drown the loudest man. Here's what I've learned. Master your facial neutrality. No twitch, no eye dart, no smirk. Your silence must be clean. Let them search your face and find nothing but their own reflection. Use delayed responses. Don't fill the silence. Let their own emotional pressure build and cook them from the inside. Never explain calm. If they ask, why are you quiet? Stay quiet. The moment you justify it, you betray the tactic. Let them spiral in their confusion. People fear what they cannot predict, and nothing is more unpredictable than someone who refuses to react. According to Machiavelli, he who controls himself controls others, because in a world driven by impulse, stillness becomes domination. You don't win by striking harder. You win by never swinging at all. And that's when they break themselves, trying to break you. They think you've stopped caring. They're wrong. You've simply stopped needing. According to Machiavelli, he who depends on others is always a slave. But most people live as emotional addicts, needing attention, praise, apologies, approval, always craving a reaction to feel whole. That's why they're easy to control, predictable, breakable, but not you, not anymore. You've found the final weapon, detachment. This isn't numbness. This is precision. You still feel, but you don't flinch. You hear the insult, but you don't respond. You notice the praise, but it doesn't shape you. You watch the world burn, and instead of panicking, you calculate. The detached mind becomes untouchable, not because it lacks emotion, but because it no longer obeys emotion. You no longer chase comfort. You no longer beg for connection. And so, they no longer know how to control you. Detachment turns you into a mystery, a question mark they can't solve, a mirror they can't read. You become the one thing people fear most, unmoved. Here's how to weaponize this. Audit your needs. List what controls you. Praise, validation, attention. Cut their strings. Watch what collapses. That's your prison. Train emotional abstinence. Don't react. Don't indulge. Delay your responses until your feelings shrink. Visualize cold observation. Imagine you are behind glass, untouchable, watching without speaking. That image will train your nervous system to remain still. You don't win by shouting. You win by not flinching. And when nothing moves you, everything around you begins to shift. They keep trying to figure you out, but there's nothing left to read, according to Machiavelli. Make yourself feared by your silence and obeyed by your absence. Because when you stop explaining, they start guessing. When you stop reacting, they start doubting. That uncertainty becomes your weapon. Power doesn't belong to the loud. It belongs to the one who doesn't blink. When they can't see your anger, your joy, your weakness, you become larger than life. A shadow they can't touch. A question they can't answer. You've become presence without performance. You enter a room and everything quiets. Not because you spoke, but because you didn't. You don't need approval. You don't need attention. Your silence commands it. People start imagining who you are. And their imagination always fears more than the truth. Here's how unreadability becomes power. Speak only when it sharpens your position. Not every opinion is a weapon. Some are traps. Let others fill the silence. You hold it. Be observed, never decoded. Let them watch you, but never understand you. Their confusion is your shield. Make unpredictability your armor. Never react the same way twice. Teach them that knowing you is impossible. You're not a mystery because you're hiding. You're a mystery because you don't need to be seen. The less they know, the more they fear.